Alrighty, we are going live. We are going live. Let's make sure that the audio is working just fine because after a day like today, who knows? Who knows what will what will happen? So, hope that you are having a wonderful morning, evening, day, wherever you're at. And yeah, now there we go. There's no audio. Come on. Oh, okay. Let's see what we can do about this. Right, brings in the audio now. Audio. There we go. Audio's in. Woohoo. Oh my gosh. Yeah, what a day. What a day it's been. So, well, welcome everyone to a new live stream from Camille's Harem. Say, wow, it's been a day. This live stream is pretty late because so many things just stacking up, not going right. Personal drama, and so if I need to rant, I will rant. If you want to rant, though, the rant will have to either be a happy rant or deranged. Just let out all the bile and venom that I have, and if it be the latter, then I'll let you guys either choose between a rant about the Five Kingdoms or a rant about Game of Thrones because, Five Kingdoms, because I always seem to rant a little bit about Game of Thrones and its many problems. So maybe shake it up a little bit if we need a rant today. Oh, my Naguta. Okay, so let's just dive into it. Tonight, the main topics are going to be talking about putting dialogue into action, like what we got from the conversation between Pomni and Jax at the end of episode 6. They all have guns in the amazing digital circus. And even though I've already done a review and analysis for the episode, this is a conversation that definitely deserves to have more said about it because it is such a raw, such an in-depth conversation that is fantastically written, but not just the words and the incredible voice acting, but also how the scene plays out. The writing for it was excellent. And in a way, this is also kind of a pushback to some things I've seen from people say, like, oh, well, this latest episode is just another example of really weak, poor millennial writing where it's just all about feelings. And it's like, well, for one thing, that is kind of the show. But for another thing, like the conversation that Pomni and Jax has is in the same vein of excellent writing as some of the great conversations out of something like Dirty Harry, believe it or not. So I want to get into why it is such a great bit of writing and how we can take that how we can take what Gooseworks did and not necessarily copy her, but rather learn from her approach, which is actionable, even cinematic dialogue. So we'll talk about that, and then also talk a little bit about Deltarune Chapter 4 and how it handles love. Ooh my. Because, well, love is a pretty big topic. I'm right now currently working on 2 Deltarune videos. I keep getting distracted and derailed because, again, of the personal drama behind the scenes that has made this live stream almost 2 hours later than it should have been. So, yeah. I do want to have a chance to kind of share with you guys some of the thoughts and theories I've got playing out behind the scenes that will not be in the 2 upcoming Deltarune videos. So just a chance to kind of have some fun talking about actionable writing, spend a little bit more time with the Amazing Digital Circus, and then talk about a topic within Deltarune Chapter 4 that I don't think is getting enough attention within the community because we're so hung up on the prophecy. And interestingly enough, it actually has something to do with the prophecy, but it goes even beyond one particular panel. So a lot to talk about. So let's start diving on in. Now then, for those who have been around for quite a few of my writing lessons, you will immediately recognize writing cinematic dialogue, because we've already had this lesson before. I want to come back to it in order to help show what's going on here with the argument between Jax and Pomni. So so we'll jump back and forth a little bit between the slideshow and the episode. So we're going to be taking it apart bit by bit, layer by layer. So let's reacquaint ourselves with what it means to do cinematic dialogue, and then we're going to start jumping on over to the episode and then start breaking it down. And of course, your interactions within the chat are always appreciated. Otherwise, just sit back and enjoy and learn something. So we'll skip over the goals of our giving us our goals, our layout for the evening. So to review, dialogue is action. So try talking without emotion or moving your head or your hands. Like you guys can't see because I don't show my camera. I don't actually have a camera for you guys to see me. But like I've been moving my hands, I've been moving my head. I speak with inflection. If I just talk like this and talk about how dialogue is full of emotion. Oh, I'm even moving my hands. I got to put down my hands and talk with monotone voice. Dialogue is action. Dialogue is full of emotion. If there's no emotion in the dialogue becomes boring. Because dialogue is so important and critical to understanding the characters, who they are, their motivations, their role in the plot. If you speak like that, it is insanely boring. And even though, for instance, when you're writing, you can't write where your words magically come off the page exactly the way that you hear them in your head, or even the way that you might speak them out loud. No, you have to help your audience understand the emotions that your characters are feeling, the actions that they're taking as they're talking, in order to help them paint the fullest picture and feel just how alive that conversation is. Now, granted, in something like the Amazing Digital Circus, which is visual storytelling, that is its medium, you are able then to, of course, animate the characters or act things out if you've got live action to capture all this emotion. But still, you have to put in the inflection. You have to put in the action. Otherwise, they just become barely moving talking heads, which is incredibly boring and doesn't really do anything for the story. In fact, it can be very detrimental to the story. So we want to see characters expressing themselves. We want to see characters moving. We want to hear inflection. We want to hear tone. We need to be able to set the atmosphere and everything in order for any conversation to hit as hard as it needs to. So we'll bear that in mind as we then jump on over to two things to consider. Things to consider when it comes to writing excellent dialogue, like again, what we see towards the end of the Amazing Digital Circus, episode 6. We need to know who is participating in the conversation, how do they speak, what are their emotions or their thoughts, and the relationship between the speakers. It really helps to know your characters before sitting down and trying to write the dialogue, because if you just try writing blah, 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 you won't know what to actually have your character say or how to say it in order to make the dialogue interesting. So let's actually head on over to the Amazing Digital Circus and set the scene for ourselves. Woo! That was a little loud. We'll turn down the volume so we don't break anyone in the
Today's adventure
eardrums.
is brought to you by the...
And we're jumping on ahead to right after. to right after they took out Zubul.
We did it! We make such a good team.
Well, to be fair, our competition wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so let's hop back on over. We've got a chance to see the beginning of the conversation. The tone, the atmosphere has been set. So let's hop back on over here to our slideshow. So we need to know who's participating in the conversation. We have Pomni, we have Jax. How do they normally speak? We've got Jax, who is usually condescending, aloof in how he speaks, jokey and light, which we see how his face gets all contorted. He gets upset and he tries to compensate by putting on again that persona, putting on those airs. Pomni is very expressive. She's been that way since the very first episode. And as the show has gone on, she's gotten even more open with her thoughts and with who she is. Kind of a more bubbly personality, though not in the Ragatha sense where it's very forced. Pomni is far more natural, and we get that. But we also see how she's a little bit put off by how Jax shoved her away. She saw that he wasn't exactly happy or very excited with her response after they have just knocked out Zubul in their crazy death game. So things are a little bit tense. Their relationship is an interesting one because while they are friendly, it's hard to say that they're exactly friends. We know by the end of this conversation that Pomni sees them as friends. Question is, how does Jax see them? That's one of the big mysteries to unlock here within this conversation. So the relationship is a little bit shaky, a little bit rocky. And so knowing now, okay, they've come off the high of winning the death game, and now it seems as though there's a new infusion of tension. Jax reacted poorly to what should have been a great moment. And now the conversation is going to take an interesting turn. CDVA's here. Hi. And Stormcrow says, hello, sir. Are we still not going to talk about the fact that Zubul wants to have a sex minigame? Dude, you missed out on that conversation last time. But yes, Zubul would love to get their freak on. Wants to have a sex minigame, or even maybe a whole game, or maybe just have that turned on all the time within the circus. Woo boy! And I love how Kane just absolutely breaks over that because again, the digital circus is supposed to be family friendly and accessible for everyone of all ages. Oh wait, this is a show that's made for older teens and young adults. Oh. So, yeah, that's an interesting development. Also, let's just throw it out there. Wait a second, Zubul, come on, Zubul, old buddy, old pal. When you say that you wish to dance the mattress mumbo and have some sex, is there anyone in the circus that we should be looking towards? Or do you just want a game? Is there any one of the NPCs catching your eye? I'm pretty certain that if you try to take away Gummy Goo from Pomni, that there will indeed be a fight on your hands. On your many, many hands. Document says the relationship between Gangle and Zubul is so good. It has that LGBT vibes here. It does. And we can see that. The interesting thing is that because this is a show where it hasn't really veered off towards romance all too much, romance is more a question on the periphery. It's very interesting seeing Zubul and Gangle's relationship build up because it really does come more from a perspective of friends of trying to build each other up, support one another, and that you then see how romance is something that can be developed should they take it that way. First, a strong friendship, then potentially a strong romance, which is really good writing. Far, 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 far too often, writers just want to jump to the good steamy bits. They want to steam their rice with these moments. But that's just steaminess. It lacks the real fulfillment. It lacks the meat. It lacks the fun, the true fun, what endears you to these characters. So you can think of it this way. You want depth, you want engagement, you want meat. If you just jump to the steamy bits, it is as tangible and as enjoyable as a puff of steam. So that's why it's far more important to build up characters in a relationship that leads up to romance rather than just jumping straight to the mattress mumbo. CV, Zubul and Gangel's sex scenes episode 10. Oh, that will just absolutely break the internet. And will probably... It's the episode 10, though, that we're probably never going to get. Hannah Heaven, hello. Great to have you here. Okay, so moving on from what Zubul wants when people aren't looking. Oh my gosh. You know, I actually really want there now to be that full-on conversation between Jax and Zubul. Because Jax like, what, are we going to talk about this? Let's come back. Whoop. So let's come on back here to our lovely conversation.
This is the part where one of us betrays the other.
Huh?
Hmm?
Oh, yeah. You can betray me.
Oh, I thought this was gonna be a mutual thing.
Nah, go on, do it.
Okay, so one things I want to point out as far as this conversation is concerned, where it starts veering off to, is that we have miscommunication happening. When I see people say that they hate it when miscommunication is used within a story, I'm like, no. What's dumb with miscommunication is when characters don't work it out. When someone miscommunicates something and then they never bother trying to figure out what the truth of the matter is, nor is it addressed that there was miscommunication for like episodes on end or chapters on end. Miscommunication can actually lead to some great communication moments. When people misunderstand each other, that's normal, that's real. And then the tension, the drama, the conflict that comes off of it is also fairly real and relatable. It's how the characters then come back together that we really want to see. And when you drag it out way too long, it begins to feel unnatural because you're like, wait a second. If I was actually in a situation like this, I don't know if I would actually act this way. This just feels like you're milking it for the fun of it, for the drama, for the unearned drama. Isa, what did I miss? Talking about how Zubul wants to have sex. That's what you've missed. TV Count says maybe it's been overdone and executed poorly. Yes, it is. Miscommunications have often been misused and done way too often. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's a trope that people just don't like, because it feels so formulaic and unfulfilling. But here within the Amazing Digital Circus, the miscommunication ends up becoming very cathartic. TV account, did you miss the lesson? No, you are right in the middle of it. Or I should say in the middle of the beginning. As we are talking about actionable dialogue, which this scene has. It has some amazing actionable dialogue. Isa says, to be fair, me too. But it's very odd how I don't like that line. I don't understand myself. It just seems like a weird place for a sex joke. It is. The thing is that it was meant to catch Kane off. It's hard to tell if Zubul's really being serious. They might be, but I think that ultimately it's just Zubul being all like, This is so ridiculous. If you really want to know, Kane, I would like to be human again. And rather than saying that, which is something that Kane is not going to acquiesce to, it's kind of a backhand of, well, like, I want something I know you're not going to give me. And just watch as Kane freaks out. We kind of gotten to a point now where Zubul is really beginning to spar more against Kane as Kane becomes more frustrated with them. It's a very unhealthy dynamic between the two of them, and it'll be very interesting to see where it goes. Now then, let me pull this back a little bit, so that way we can again see how this has been set up, where this miscommunication goes, and where things start playing off from there. Yeah, I agree with CDVA right there. Okay, let me pull this on back. So again, we're going to get the whole bit.
What?
We did it! We make such a good team.
A moment of triumph quickly ruined by Jax's reaction.
Well, to be fair, our
then he
competition
covers
wasn't
it up.
anything crazy.
Yeah, true.
Pomni recovers and then tries to rescue the moment.
This is the part where one of us betrays the other.
Huh? Oh, yeah. You can betray me.
Oh, I thought this was gonna be a mutual thing.
Nah, go on. Do it.
I don't really want to.
Lame. Come on.
Okay. So, yeah, where this is going in the chat. Oh, my Naguta. Maybe I should just quit the writing lesson, and we'll just discuss this and see how far we can push YouTube censorship. In any case, actionable dialogue. What we see happening here. So again, it's not just simply talking heads. We've gone from happy to angry to obviously covering it up. So Jax then assumes again his persona of being very aloof, condescending. So we have aloof and condescending. Pomni recovering and then trying to kind of recapture the moment and be like, okay then, so one of us is going to betray the other. Kind of trying to bring back some fun, so some tension, then some fun. And then Jax is all like, oh, yeah, whatever. We are getting serious tonal whiplash, which is enforced by Jax tossing aside his gun, which in every other moment that we've seen thus far, Jax loves his guns and he holds onto his guns. Him tossing aside his gun is a big deal. This is him kind of rejecting the moment entirely. And it really throws Pomni off. It's a simple gesture, but it means a lot. And just also the way how they look. Look at Jax trying to be like all not imposing is not the right word, but again, confident. Weirdly enough, confidence being mixed in with aloofness is a weird combination, and it again shows that he's putting on airs. Meanwhile, Pomni's body language is just absolute dumbfoundedness, doesn't know what to do with the situation. And CDVA brings up a good point right here. Jax looks at his hand for a while. Do you think he's disappointed or just overwhelmed by being hugged? CDVA, I don't think he's overwhelmed. I think that he's genuinely shocked. He does not know how to fully process what has just happened. And one of the things that we realize about Jax is that he's really trying to distance himself from everyone else within the circus. And as we discussed last week, it's probably his coping method. It's a way for him to deal with everything that's going on within the circus. And so he's struggling with, how do I react to this moment? How do I play this off? Which then leads him actually to overcompensating. Again, aloofness with this confidence. While those can work together, it's very clear by his body language, by his facial expression, by his words, that he's trying to cover for something. ISO, I would have just joyfully shot Jax. That way we could have kept our friendship fully intact. Yeah, you know what? In hindsight, maybe just shooting Jax would have been the right thing for Pomni to do. But Pomni, as has been established in previous episodes, is trying to connect with everyone. And I believe that she feels that like Jax needs her help, and so she's trying to connect. And this leads also into, I think, a very interesting conversation that should be had about what happens when you try to help someone who just does not want the help. So again, just one of the reasons why I love this conversation between these two characters and their fight is that there's just so much going on, so many layers. And I'll say this for Gooseworks as well, and I've said this for other writers too, and even for myself. You don't realize sometimes just how deep you've made a moment within your story until you're looking at it in hindsight. And usually it's because of the characters. The more interesting you make your characters, the more realistic you make them within the context of your story, the more depth and meaning you begin to create subconsciously. And I feel like that definitely happened here for this particular argument, because if Gooseworks sat there and tried to consciously lay in all of these different kinds of meanings and nuances purposefully, I don't think it would have worked so well. Dan S. is here. Hi. And CVA says, I think Pomni made an emotionally intelligent choice in confronting Jax pushing her away, but Jax doesn't want help. And I would agree with that.
And I thought you were cool.
We could just be winners as a team.
We're not a team, come on.
What do you mean? Yes, we are.
Delusional.
Weren't we kind of bonding over being chaotic evil together?
All right, so again, looking at what we've got here with the way that the characters are moving, with the conversation going on. If you were to write this out rather than just simply watch it, you would probably put in a little bit of thinking on the part of Pomni, like, what the heck is going on? I thought that we were bonding. Why is he acting like this? Why is he? It's like he's talking like Jax normally would, but this feels forced. As Jax is like, come on, I thought you were the cool one. As he then walks by her kind of like intimidatingly, like, just like, come on, shoot me. And Pomni in back of her head thinking like, no, I can still rescue this. I thought we were bonding, being all the whole chaotic evil kind of a thing. And you would put in some adjectives in there, like she said, tentatively or encouragingly, or Pomni intentionally left her sentence hanging, like, this is I'm inviting you to interact with me honestly, Jax. And so this leads me to the other slide. So things to consider part 2. Well, obviously this is more like describing describing your setting and everything, what's going on here. What's going on here when we think about, okay, so what's their situation? They are in this digital circus where they're not going to die. We already know that they're not going to die, but they can indeed abstract. That's important, especially for what's going to happen to Jax at the end of all of this. How does it feel, smell, taste, sound? This scene is kept very static around the characters in order to bring out all of their action, their dialogue. There's no music. There's no weirdness. The digital circus seems to almost be on pause in order to bring out the seriousness of this conversation. And that's actually something to consider, is that in the Amazing Digital Circus, where we've seen Kane interrupt heartfelt conversations, like what happened in the 5th episode multiple times, where we've seen weird things happen all the time. Where's one of the weird, creepy NPCs that's checking in on them from the background? None of that. Nothing to distract us from this moment. And that is very, very telling. So no, you're not going to stand there and tell me that nothing we've been doing means anything to you, because I know that's not true. It's pretty cringy, but it only complements the scene as it is. And ISO, you bring up a good point right there. Again, I've seen the argument of like, oh, this show is just another example of like of just cringy millennial writing. And the thing is that it's only cringy, truly cringy, when there is no heart to these kinds of conversations, where it's just characters discussing feelings because you want characters to discuss feelings. Rather, this is Jax and Pomni's relationship coming to an important head. Us being shown something about Jax, which we've not had the chance yet to see. Because while he does a lot of talking, what we see on the screen begins to tell a completely different story. And so that is why this whole conversation, in my opinion, works really, really well. And sure, you can say maybe it feels a little juvenile for someone to say something like that. But then again, it fits for Pomni because that's how Pomni's been talking and acting throughout the show. If Kinger spoke that way, it wouldn't work because we know already from several scenes, even one scene in this episode, that Kinger is far more considerate and sophisticated with how he speaks and how he addresses emotional problems. So a nuanced difference also in how characters interact and speak really helps to bring out their character. TV count. I don't know if this would make me sound selfish, but may I ask in the end of the stream if you could re-show the lesson slide so I could screenshot them? Well, TV count, if you've actually, I'm pretty certain that you saw this particular lesson before. I'm only reusing a couple of slides from when we did writing cinematic dialogue. So if you want, you can take a quick moment to screenshot this one right here. I'll stay here for a few moments, and then I'll hop on to the other two slides. I'm only reusing 3 slides to really then kind of highlight what we want to do when we break down this particular episode. So let me then hop back on over here to things to consider, part 1. And so coming back to it, like, so the matter of cringy dialogue, this is something where, I'll be honest, I have come to realize that when it comes to writing, like there's parts of me sometimes where I'm like, I can make my character sound way more intelligent and not so childish. And sometimes I've done that, especially in The Legend of the Ten Lords, where I've made my teenage characters sound way more articulate than most normal teens would be, which kind of defeats the purpose of my story, where I'm taking 2 teenagers who should seem normal and even stereotypical, and not the stereotypical kind of teenager who would go on a fantastic portal fantasy adventure utilizing their imagination. You've got a jock and you've got 2 jocks. You got a track athlete, and then you've got a cheerleader. Two characters who normally in fiction we do not identify with overly imaginative, creative, interesting characters, at least from a nerdy point of view. And so then when I made these 2 teenagers try to sound more nerdy, it contradicted what I was trying to do, where, look, I've got 2 jocks going on an adventure that requires them to be nerds and to embrace the nerdy side of the Force. It's been difficult because I'm like, okay, then I need to make sure that my characters sound at least somewhat their age, also make them a little bit more intelligent, but let them sound like teenagers. And I've joked in the past that my characters in The Legend of the Ten Lords, the only thing that is truly fantastical about them is not their powers, but the fact that they're not dropping the F-bomb every 3rd word, like most teenagers that I've known. So yeah, I didn't know what a lot of the word that I know now meant when I was younger. Even now I have to look up a few words. Ladies and gentlemen, the English language. Oh yes, writing is a great way of expanding your vocabulary and understanding. But it's okay to write characters that don't use a massive vernacular or lexicon in order to convey their feelings or their thoughts. But it is also a good idea to make characters maybe just a little bit more intelligent than the normal two brain cell type person that you run into at McDonald's. Frick, man, we didn't even get to bat. Exactly. All right, so jumping back to the episode. Now that we've gotten our things to consider, we're now fully locked and loaded in to really get into the meat of this argument and of this moment.
I was merely entertaining you because I thought it was funny. Now are you gonna shoot me or what?
Did I do something wrong?
You sound like Ragatha right now. No wonder we're not a team.
No, I mean, we were doing fine, having fun, talking. But you suddenly
You're not committing. Do it.
All right, that's a great place to pause. So, at this point, this is where things start becoming way more actionable. Because Jax is trying to commit to the bit, to the archetype that he is trying to convince himself and everyone else that he is. Because again, this is part of his coping. And so as Pomni refuses to play along, she's still trying to figure out, where did she go wrong? We were connecting. I want to connect. Because Pomni, since her time in episode 3 with Kinger, learning that she needs to make good relationships with people in the circus, because you never know when it's going to be gone, seize the moment. This is the way to retain your sanity. That's what she's been trying to do. She's been trying to be friends with everyone, help them out. And she's been doing a pretty good job of it, actually. But Jax doesn't want that because, well, we're missing a significant puzzle piece about why Jax doesn't want that. What has motivated this toxic behavior of his? We've all speculated, and I think that a lot of us are close to one truth or the other about what has motivated Jax to get to this point. But now at this point, all of their words start becoming truly actionable. They're no longer talking heads with tones and inflection. There's now true movement. The moment that Jax grabs Pomni's wrist and pulls the gun right there to his head, to his face, this is where the scene starts really picking up the pace in terms of action. And that's one of the reasons why this conversation is so dang good, because it's not just them talking, like we've seen with Ragatha and with Ragatha and Kinger, and Zubul and Gangle. It now becomes action. And the dialogue that we truly remember is the dialogue that is actionable, where characters are moving, doing things, because it cements to us their words, because we can now associate actions with those words. Dan says, can't believe 7 days have gone by. Oh boy, you're telling me, Danez. This has been a long week. Okay, here we go.
If I shoot you right now, are we still gonna be friends afterwards?
We were never friends.
What about all that stuff you told me?
Yeah, I did tell you a lot, didn't I? Not looking forward to thinking about that tomorrow.
No, we're not doing this. You're not gonna look me in the eye and tell me nothing we've been doing together meant anything to you, because I know that's not true.
Are you coming on to me? Yeah, that's what everybody wants. A straight couple.
Oh my...
Okay. Hey, Comicraft Brazil is here. Hello, what did I miss? Oh, you missed us talking about actionable dialogue, and you also missed the derailment talking about Zubul wanting to have sex. But so right here you get the close-ups. We get the tension as Jax continues to have that mask plastered on. As Pomni is filled with horror, Jax stands up again, kind of looming over her, of all like, no, you're going to take my way of seeing things. She backs up. She's still got the gun in her hands. And holy cow, better be like dangerous Pomni right here, because she's got her finger right there next to the trigger as she's like waving her hands like, no, none of this. And she just said the quote that, as Iso said, feels cringy, and definitely in isolation it absolutely is. But in the context, it's like, This is Pomni struggling to find some kind of way of saying, look, we were connecting. We had a moment. You can't tell me that all the time that we've been spending together has meant nothing to you. You honestly can't say that. And we've got Jax then, with his demeanor and with his tone, he's saying one thing, but clearly we begin to see that he's probably lying. In fact, we know that he is.
God, can you take this seriously? Can you take anything seriously?
Dude, you're a cartoon clown. How am I supposed to take you seriously?
You reached out to me, not the other way around. You're just gonna pretend that didn't happen?
You must be misremembering.
Is this why you didn't show up to Kaufmo's funeral?
I don't show up to any funerals.
Yeah,
All right. So I'm going to pause right there to, again, break down exactly what we see. Concraft, though, says, I find it shocking and a bit off-putting that I have found someone online who unironically believes that Jack is in Uniflong or an unapologetic. I'm not exactly sure what you're saying right there with an Effalong psychopath who is pure evil because he literally admitted it out loud. And I've seen plenty of other people feel the exact same way, Commoncraft. The thing is that, again, it's all building up. This conversation is all building up to the moment where Jax's mask breaks. Because if he was a true psychopath, that mask would have remained in place. And we would not see what we get to see by the end of this argument. Okay, I see right there. Right, unfeeling. You got it there, Commoncraft. An unfeeling psychopath. No, he definitely feels. He definitely feels because of what he does at the end of this conversation. The way he looks and everything. So they're backing on up. They're physically putting more space between them, representing the fact that there is now a rift happening within their relationship. This is something that action can do. Even if, again, that was not necessarily originally intended by Gooseworks, it's something that we can easily apply to the moment, and we would not be wrong. That by Jax putting distance between himself and Pomni, this represents the fact that there's this rift now between them, and that he's trying so hard to prevent her from getting closer, and he's deflecting. You must be misremembering. We were never friends. We were never buddies. We were never a team. But that contradicts everything that we've been seeing from episode 5 up until this point. All right, so I love that. The arguments are perfect. Just because someone admits it out loud doesn't mean that they're telling the truth. Body language matters a lot. It absolutely does. Concraft, I found another person who claimed that Jax believes he is a jerk with a heart of gold, who actually is just a jerk. And this entire scene was supposed to be Jax tricking Pomni into thinking he is good to save him on purpose. Oh, no. Oh, definitely. I would disagree with that. Because, again, Jax is doing his absolute best to not let Pomni get even closer. And again, what he says at the end of the conversation is absolutely critical. When Gooseworks literally said that Jax thinks he is unredeemable, exactly. Jax doesn't think that there's anything to him. And we get that all at the end of the conversation. This argument is to build up to the moment where Jax breaks. So, continuing on.
Bet you don't. Because you're scared. You're scared. You'll actually
You're pointing the
show
gun at him.
emotion.
I'm scared I'll be bored to tears.
Have you ever thought that this might be what causes people to abstract in the first place?
Oh my god!
Okay. So this is where another turn, another twist in the conversation happens. This going back and forth, he's deflecting. I'm going to be bored to tears. I love how Pomni's, again, just still swinging around this gun. Accidents could happen. Accidents could absolutely happen right here if she's not careful. And she touches a nerve with the abstraction because, again, Jax is terrified of abstracting. And there's a very good chance, very strong chance, that he feels guilty because he very likely didn't just push Kaufmo to abstraction, but probably played a role in how Ribbit abstracted as well, and maybe others. this is weighed on Jax. This is why he has the persona that he does, why he assumes his archetype, his role within the circus to justify and deflect and lay blame somewhere else. And the moment that she mentions abstraction and is pinning it on him, all of that negativity he's been trying to repress and deflect comes out, and he turns it, and he's going to try to turn it all on her. So where he tried to put the gap between them, and she's trying to bridge that gap, he's now going to come across that bridge in an attempt to burn it, metaphorically speaking. And this will be mirrored in his language and in his movement, his body language. Iso says, I love how you can see just how much you see how that actually affects Jax. Exactly. You can see it. If he was a psychopath, an unfeeling psychopath, he would not react this way. This is the reaction of someone who is desperate, who feels it. Comcraft says, I've noticed one thing that most people seem to miss about Jax is that everyone assumes that Jax was always like this since entering the circus, as if until recently he was a static person. My read is that Jax was bad and has been getting worse, and the way he acts in the burger episode, after getting burnt out, the way Ragatha claims this episode, she failed him, just like Pomni, and now she will become a jerk too. And how during the archetype talk, he says at first they were people. At least that's the way that he thinks. And so, yeah, Jax has been a character who's been doing stuff, who's been evolving since before Pomni arrived. Pomni is the one who takes his growth and brings it to a critical moment. And that's really good writing. Characters should be doing what they do. They should be who they are before, during, and after the protagonist interacts with them. Iso, my automatic argument against Jax was when he says, you don't even know what they're like before they abstract. They are not pleasant to be around. My argument was, you mean like you? Exactly. So let's get to that part.
Are you seriously gonna blame me for something that everybody else did too? You didn't even know him. You don't even know what people are like before they abstract. They are not pleasant to be around. Like at all. You...
Okay. So I'm going to stop it right there. So we see him turning around again, as I said, metaphorically, basically burning a bridge. He goes on the attack. And as Iso said right here, you mean like you. Jax realizes in this moment that his argument is coming right back at him. Whatever he's throwing at Pomni, it's like throwing it into the wind, and it's coming right back and smacking him in the face. Which is why he stops, stands up, plasters on the smile, and allows his eyes to become big and dilated again, as if he's just the happy-go-lucky bunny once more. At this point in the argument, it should become clear that this is his mask. Everything that we've been seeing so far, while it is him, it's more of a facade. That the true Jax is in the mess behind this smiling face. And that's not something that Pomni calls him out on. It's not something that he himself says. It is shown. And that is what we call cinematic dialogue, because they are saying things. They are having a conversation. They're having an argument. And how they are acting also helps to tell the story. And in this case, tells us that Jax is a walking contradiction and that he is hiding something. Comcraft says, I have found a theory that Jax is claiming to be the funny one is him trying to fill in for Kaufmo. Maybe, though I think he probably always thought he was the funny one. TV account says, I always assumed that the line was based on how he felt like about others before Ribbit abstracted. Interesting. Dan S says, bro is desperate. Oh, he absolutely is. Concraft, I saw someone else point out that Jax seemed funnier in the pilot, but after it, he becomes less funny and more of a jerk, which is a clue of how he has been getting worse with each abstraction. That's it. Okay. Okay. So, I think that's a very interesting observation, that Kaufmo's abstraction probably did get to him. And we also see his reaction to the funeral. He's upset by it and moves away from it. He's not, again, if he was an unfeeling psychopath, he might scoff at it, or he wouldn't have any reaction. He'd just walk off. But we see that there is a reaction. This is something that has been getting to him, and it has been eating him from the inside.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure you are.
And immediately his mask cracks again.
Ooh, man.
So he tries to overcome
This
it.
is all sorts of embarrassing, huh? So, you're gonna shoot me or what?
What would you do if I abstracted tomorrow?
I'd move on. And probably forget about you.
Okay. Such a good, chilling moment. And again, when people are like, "Oh my gosh, he's so awful," him saying that is him being honest, but not because he doesn't care, but because he does not want to care. And the way that, again, you can tell that is when he turns around and he's trying to be all loosey-goosey, and she brings up, what would you do if I abstracted tomorrow? He rightens himself. He becomes stiff and upright, like his usual condescending, aloof, bunny self. And then he turns around and he delivers that line as coldly as he possibly can to convince Pomni and to convince himself of that. But again, as we're going to see, we've already seen, his mask has cracked twice. And we're going to see it crack again. Now then, another interesting thing to point out here, and I don't know if Gooseworks ever intended this, but this is, again, something that we can analyze. You know how he's always forcibly cracking Gangel's really happy mask, and is always taking it and messing around with her? He's always making her mask crack. In this episode, his mask, his metaphorical mask, is continuously shattered. And when Gangel's mask is broken by Pomni, what we see underneath the mask is Gangel smiling, genuinely smiling. She just had the time of her life in a life or death situation. She got to freaking run around with a Tommy gun. It's such a beautiful moment because it shows that Gangel can truly be happy, even if she hasn't completely overcome her various issues just yet. Or if she ever could. We don't know. But it's proof that Gangel can be happy. Contrast that then to when Jax's mask breaks, and we see him go from the happy-go-lucky, condescending, aloof bunny man to a human who is terrified of the situation that he finds himself in. Comicraft, on this episode, the very first thing to get a reaction out of Jax is Kaufmo's room, followed by seeing Ribbits. I think the whole move on thing is what he wants Pomni to do about him. Oh, I'd not thought about that, Comicraft. I like that interpretation. Jack's whole thing, in part, seems to be projecting, in part. So he's trying to project what he wants Pomni to do in the worst way possible. You know what, Comicraft? I can go along with that. I can buy that interpretation. And it makes it even all the more tragic than what's happening here. Because Pomni is not just simply going to forget about him. It's very clear that Pomni is going to continue caring about him. And that's heartbreaking to even a jerk like Jax. Dana says, I hope Gooseworks does another indie show. Oh, yeah. Gooseworks deserves it, too, especially after this. People are going to, like other people, I guarantee, in the indie scene and even in the professional sphere, are going to see Gooseworks as a big moneymaker. because the Amazing Digital Circus is one of the most popular shows in the internet's history, and it has made a mint for Glitch. Concrete says, I honestly think that Jax will not abstract. It looks way too blatant now. He looks so much like a blatant abstraction bait that it feels like a distraction. I also agree. And people might be upset with me for saying this, but I think that Gangle is actually going to be the one to abstract. I think Gangle will be the one to abstract, and that's going to break Zooble, and that's going to be very important. It's going to be really sad. And the thing is that it might seem like, okay, why would Gangle break when it seems like she's making progress? You just talked about how she's smiling when Pomni takes her out, which is all true, but there's something deep within Gangle that Gangle's having a hard time reconciling with, which in a way is represented by the crazy possessed figure that Ragatha saw when she got the stupid sauce in her eye. Iso says, I made a post on Reddit. I know, cringe AF. Oh, don't worry. I make posts on Reddit every now and then too. But in the post, I said that it seemed that Pomni was about to initiate self-death, but a user said that it would be a moment of emotional maturity, and this was a sign of actual character growth. I do too. Yeah, so, yep. Yeah, no, what we're going to get to see right here with Pomni, this is Pomni being all like, no. Earlier, Pomni might have made some really drastic decisions, like bite the bullet, just to get out of the situation. But Pomni is going to stick it out. And I'm really excited for that. Okay, so let's continue on.
Okay. Okay.
She's trying to think about what to do in the situation.
Jeez, you really can't take a joke, can you?
You're not the funny one.
So, right there was a great moment. A great action. The way that she's hunched over her gun after being like, okay, and you can see her thinking about, like, what is she going to do? And Jax at that moment, again, if he was an unfeeling psychopath, would not have stepped in. I think Jax thought that she was going to try to eat the bullets. Pomni, however, rather than take the bad way out, or even turn around and pop him in the face because he deserves it and would end this all, she turns around and chucks the gun, not away, but at him. Like, no. Like, I reject this. I reject all of this. And I'm not even simply just going to get rid of the gun. I'm getting rid of it at you. Just boom. I'm going to hurt you to let you know that I do not accept what you're saying. Which is where the conversation goes then from here on out. Now, we're Pomni now, like, we've initiated the violence. If he can burn a bridge... If he can burn a bridge, she can blaze a trail. And I just came up with that off the top of my head. I now feel really smart saying that. Commoncraft says, this show got Netflix to basically beg to get an indie YouTube show to get put on their platform. They gave Glitch a super good deal. Gooseworks is basically set professionally now. Exactly. ISO, Gangle hasn't resolved her internal issues yet, as we see in this episode. Yes as well. Dennis, I think Kinger is the character who has the less chance to get abstracted compared to Ragatha and Zooble. Yeah, we know that Kinger is way more resilient. And even though he's crazy, there's reasons why he's been able to hold on. It's not just because he's resilient, but because of his relationships with others, which is, again, what he tries to communicate to Pomni in episode 3. TV account. The roundtable theories that they might try and fix the abstracted. And I can see that happening. I think that would be the happiest way for the show to end. I don't know if that's the way it will go, but I would love to see that. CDVA says, I almost forgot about the whole Netflix thing. Huge step for indie animation. Oh, absolutely. Comcraft, I think another thing that may have caused Jax to get worse mentally in this episode is the realization that Kane turned him vegan last episode, despite supposedly not being able to affect their minds. And remember that Kane also infused all this information in Jax and completely caught Jax off guard. Gilligan is here. Woohoo! Hey, just joined in. I'd say Kinger is the kind of insane that makes someone confused, not broken. And yes, that's actually really, really good. Kinger, as we come to see, especially in this episode, is whole. His insanity is his existential crisis, born out of the situation that he's been in for so long. But he has a purpose. And we get a hint at that in his conversation with Ragatha and how he treats Ragatha throughout this episode. And now we've also seen from episode to episode how he buys into every adventure, into every bit. And so as a result, he is stable in a very unstable situation, which is incredibly strong for anyone to do. Deacon says, especially when you have to consider that Goosework likes to lie for kicks. Yes, Gooseworks and Alex Hirsch would probably get along very well together. Okay, so continuing on.
I don't think that counts.
The fights.
Hey, what are you doing?
Fight back!
Are you crazy?
I said fight back!
Stop!
All right. So I'll let that play on for a little bit because we now get an actual fight, which we really needed at this point. We need the catharsis of Jax being drawn into an argument and even into a fight that he can't just run away from. And he tries to. For the briefest moment, he turns around to try to get away, and that's when Pomni bites him in the leg, basically giving him a taste of his own medicine back from episode 5. And at this point, because he cannot escape this, he has to confront it. He barely fights back, though. He could probably take on Pomni handily. He's got the reach for it. But he does not want to fight Pomni, which again is very telling to us that everything he's been saying is probably a lie, because if he did mean it, he would have fought back. He would have beaten Pomni to a pulp just to get out of the situation. But he doesn't. His mask is again cracking and showing us who he really is deep down. And now that Pomni has blazed her way back to him close that distance. Even though he tried to burn the bridge, put distance between them, she keeps latching on. And so now he must confront this. We are now in a full argument. A true argument. Not just bickering back and forth, contradicting and deflecting and accusing. We now have characters getting honest. And that's something that should be considered by every writer when it comes to writing an argument. It shouldn't just be contradictions. There's actually a really, really great skit from Monty Python where this guy pays to go and have arguments, and none of the arguments have any substance because the guy that he's arguing with, between Eric Idle and John Cleese just keeps on negating it and says, he's like, no, that's not true. No. That's not an argument. It's not an argument in the slightest. An argument is when characters are actually putting forward real thoughts, cohesive thoughts, countering each other, getting in each other's face, feeling emotion, and trying to prove one thing over the other, not through contradiction or negation, but through persuasion. And this is where Jax changes from the deflection. He now goes into argumentative persuasion mode. And this is where he becomes truly desperate. So let me quickly, though, catch up with what you guys have been saying here. You guys have been dropping a lot of good stuff. I think my theory about Abel being an evil abstracted AI that's messing with things in the circus is all but confirmed now. Pomni got possessed by something that knew Kinger's wife. Ragatha saw Gangle possessed in her stupid sauce vision. Jax was turned vegan, probably due to Kane forgetting he wasn't allowed to mess with their minds. Kane is glitching all over the place and clearly not doing okay. A mysterious mannequin is spying on them. I'm pretty sure he gave Pomni the exit in episode 1 and 3. Yeah, there's not 3. That was what the ghost knew Kinger's wife. Yeah, so there's definitely something, there's something going on here. I want to know who the Abel character is in this, because we've been getting all this Cain and Abel, A and C stuff, C and A going on. What is the truth? Again, we're missing those important, crucial puzzle pieces, and we only got 3 more episodes to go. Yeah. But I think that you're on the right track. I really like what you're theorizing here. CDVA says Kinger isn't fully mentally stable, but he does engage with the adventures rather than fully reject. Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that's very important to his stability. Comcraft says, I just realized one thing. Nearly every member of the crew has one gimmick related to their digital body. But Pomni is that she has a cartoon body, and Jax not only showed her how to use cartoon physics, but is also clearly based on Bugs Bunny. And cartoon logic seems to be something everyone can do here. But what does all that mean? I have no idea yet. I think that having that cartoon logic, and I brought this up when I did my review, I think it is that if they buy more into the cartoon logic of this world, that it will actually empower them to do more. Kane said that they can basically do everything other than swear in this world. And also now we realize that they also can't have sex. But hey, that's another thing. They can't do anything above PG-13 or very restricted PG-13 going in the digital circus. But if they apply themselves more to the zaniness of this world, it seems to unlock certain abilities and seem to unlock the potential that's within all of them, so long as they're in the circus. We don't fully understand it just yet, but I think we will within the next 2 episodes. Gilligan says the thing is the other characters also are on every adventure. How does only Kinger have powers? Is it because of the adventures? Is it just because he appreciates every adventure? Meanwhile, the others are picky? I think that it comes down to, as people pointed out, that he was most likely one of the developers of the digital circus. So he knows some things that haven't yet come to light because of how he's gone cuckoo. I think it also is, again, if you embrace the weirdness of the circus, you're able to do interesting things. Just as how Pomni, and I brought this up in the last stream, Pomni actually points the gun at the ground when she shoots, and the bullet still hits the can. And both she and Kinger are able to bounce and bend bullets all around the place, even though that should be absolutely impossible to do, even from other things that we've seen within the circus and some of their adventures. The more that you buy into the zaniness of the circus, it seems like the more power you have. Kind of like if I accept that this is a dream, I have power over it. It's like lucid dreaming. If you know how to lucid dream, it changes everything. If you don't know how to lucid dream, you are stuck playing by real world rules in a dream that's doing its own thing. And the digital circus, I feel, kind of is that way. If you can lucid dream, the digital circus is your oyster. If you can't lucid dream, the digital circus is your prison. Chris Stock says, Funny Bunny is dead, so I changed my profile picture to Nikki from Pixel Pinky. All right. G-Turtle 10X is here. Woohoo. The Amazing Digital Circus in Deltarune, absolute peak. Do you think we will see a flashback of the past abstracted characters? I think that there's a possibility for that. I would really, really love to see that. Comcraft says, one thing I haven't confirmed if it is true yet, but apparently Kane is the name of one of the early computers, but backwards. I don't know. I've never heard that before. I do know that when we talk about having a bug in the computer, that comes back to the fact that the very first real computer, not just like having machines that would react based off of input, but like an actual like thinking computer, more akin to what we use today, was crashed because a moth got stuck in one of its gears. I remember that fact all the way back to sophomore year of high school. ISO says, I took a screenshot about Pomni's gun that had in quotes Cain and Abel. And I remember seeing that. That was a really good catch. Fun little personal fact. I have a new cousin born 3 days ago. Well, congratulations, ISO. That's awesome. Comcraft, I've read someone suggest that Kane's issue is that he has 2 prime directives. 1, keep the circus PG-13. 2, keep the users entertained and give them what they want. But the crew wants stuff that is not PG-13, so he's in conflict. Yep. A ship only dies if you stop being delusional. That's fantastic, CDVA. G-Turtle 10X, I think Kinger has an extremely well awareness of how the circus works. Maybe because he made it, he just doesn't know it or remember it. I think it's really cool how Kane sings the first song a computer has ever sung in front of Zubal's door. Daisy, Daisy. I've got a cat named Daisy, and I love singing that song to her. She doesn't like it so much anymore. Comcraft, I just confirmed the first large-scale computer from World War II was called ENAC, which makes Kane backwards. Interesting. I'm a little baffled they introduced the concept of everyone having more powers than they realized so late in the series. We'll pass halfway through. It makes sense, but it feels like the last moment setup. Yeah, that's and you know what, Gilligan, we're going to put a pin in that because I definitely have some thoughts on that kind of an approach. ISO. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two. All right. So let's continue on.
What's wrong with you?
Why didn't you fight back?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Because I didn't fight back, that means I secretly care about you? I'm just a misunderstood little chicken fetus in an egg that needs to be cracked open. Well, I am not. I do not care about you or anyone else in this circus in the slightest. End of story.
So, coming back to what I said earlier, that a proper argument is not just simply deflecting, denying, and negating. It's all about trying to persuade the other person to feel and see things the way that you do. And in this case, we know at this point now that Jax is lying about how he sees things. The clues are all there. The coup de grace that really proves it comes after this outburst. But this is him really trying to impress his perception of himself, both on himself and on Pomni. And it's a pretty good argument, to be fair. You think I'm just this sweet little chicken fetus that you just got to crack open the egg and then you'll get to see me, but I am not. I don't care about you or anyone here in the slightest. And so much of his actions thus far seem to support that. It's his relationship with Pomni and how he's been acting during this whole argument, however, that contradicts him. Which again, falls into the whole role of cinematics because whether you see this or read his actions, it's very clear that something is not adding up. Fun fact, Jax, yes, you care. Let's see here. Gilligan says, like last second patchwork for the last couple episodes, unless they were low-key hints early, I wish they introduced the concept a little earlier. Here's the thing, is that the concept is introduced in the pilot. The problem is that we don't see anyone do anything about that until this episode with Kinger and then with Pomni. It could be argued that Kinger does subtly show this in various aspects, like going to episode 2, where he suddenly just has an anchor and hurls it at Pomni. It's like, where did that, like, even Jax is like, wait, where did that come from? And so it's like, wait a second. Did looking back now, you're like, did Kinger find that, or did Kinger actually create that? We don't know. Like, it's something where it's like I think we need to kind of go back through and see if there's any other moments where Kinger very subtly or mysteriously did something or got something that maybe he shouldn't have had. That would be a very interesting thing to look back on the series. So I'm gonna have to do that now. Yeah, the reveal feels a bit weird. And again, putting a pin in that because I definitely want to talk about that once we are done talking about this argument, because I definitely have thoughts. And I've seen it pulled off well, and I've seen it done horribly, where an ability or power is introduced so late. G Turtle 10X says, I also just want to say I think your channel is really cool because I found it the other day and instantly subbed because it helps me with writing techniques for the game I want to make. Hey, G Turtle 10X, I'm happy that we can provide that kind of support to you, and I hope that you are having fun creating your game and moving on with that. Please feel free to share your work with us. We love hearing what other people are doing and creating. It motivates us, and it's so encouraging to see other people create stuff. It's amazing. It's so cool seeing what other people come up with. Comcraft says, one thing I think will come back is that it is possible to erase parts of Kane's memory by just telling him to forget it, which is part of the source of his frustration with Zubul. Either it will be what saves everyone or what makes Kane crack, making him forget one more specific thing at the right or wrong moments. Drill TX says, I think he got his tail back because he became friends with Pomni and he will lose it next episode. Oh, that'd be really sad. But I've talked about this actually, I think, with someone else about whether or not Jax's tail will be there again later, because I've seen other people consider that as well. Did the tail show up because of friendship, or was it like, who knows? And I'm excited to see if Jax's tail is still there, or if it's vanished in episode 7. Another thing about the cartoon logic reveal is that only Kinger, Jax, and now Pomni know about it. The others are oblivious. I think the butterfly Kinger made is an Earthbound reference because similar butterflies in Earthbound give you spell powers. Man, one of these days, I guess I'll just have to play Earthbound to know about all of these references, especially for stuff like Undertale and Deltarune. See how Zubul reacts to how Pomni's shot goes despite having 4 arms and firing guns all at once at that point in time. Oh, yeah. Yep. I honestly love to hear that about your game. Yes, exactly. Want to hear more about your game there, G Turtle 10X. Gilligan. Also, I know that Pomni is basically a stand-in for the audience in the first 3 episodes. At least we learn things as she does, but this argument awakens that feeling again as the audience and Pomni are hoping Jax will open up when it doesn't twist both her, but it doesn't. It twists both her and our hearts. Very, very good observation there, Gilligan. Okay, so let's continue on here with the arguments.
You are my playthings, and I get joy out of making you suffer. I'm the one who causes pain for fun. If I led you on, it was just to make this part hurt you more.
Okay. So, oh my gosh, I wish I could go back and watch this whole scene with fresh eyes, not knowing anything again in my life, because just to feel the chills that I had when I first saw this. I was convinced the first time I saw it that I was like, oh yeah, he's snapped, he's broken, he's messed up, until this next part happened. Or I say until this next part happens, right after he said that, because this is his most convincing moment, and you can see it on Pomni's face, where it's like, is this actually true what he's saying? The thing, though, is that he's going so hard in the paint, as it were, to try to convince her of it, that you realize the man doth protest too much. It's a great psychotic moment where he's hamming it up, and he realizes he screwed up the moment he has said that, because we get this final mass crack.
There's nothing more to me. So please, just stop looking.
And there it hits. And what's amazing, and this is where, again, I feel like visual media, visual storytelling has a leg up on just written prose, you can write this scene and you can write it very well in prose. But one of the things that I think that written prose would have a hard time truly capturing is that look of awe on Pomni's face. Like, that isn't someone who's like scared or sad or angry. It's this moment of like, I just saw Jax. I now see him for who he is. And it's shocking because given everything that we've seen about Jax in episodes 1 through 5, I think that very few of us would have legitimately believed that a very exhausted, terrified, broken, depressed person was underneath all of that, who at this point is just like, please, just don't look any further, because he values himself so little. GTroll10X asks, how do I join the Discord? GTroll10X, if you want to join our Discord, what I need you to do is I need you to comment either on this stream when it's done, or comment on any one of our posts or on one of our videos, letting us know that you wish to join the Discord. Once you've done that, we will reach out to you with a series of interview questions. These interview questions allow us to understand kind of what you're looking for when it comes to joining a writing group, and understand like what you might want and also what you feel you can bring to the table. Because we hope to have a community where people can share thoughts and ideas, feel comfortable doing that, and also feel comfortable receiving insights and support from other people, as well as giving that to people that they feel like, oh, I can actually contribute something to this person's story. I can give them some support. And once we've had that interview and you've answered everything, we'll then give you a one-time use link to then join our Discord, and voila, you've joined the Discord. And that goes for anyone who wishes to join our writing community. And one of the reasons why we do the interview is that, one, it helps us to get to know people a little bit better and see what they want. Number two, it's done wonders to help us avoid trolls, because we've had people who've tried to like come on in and mess around. We even got warned by one person once that we actually had someone who was trying to dox us, trying to get into our Discord. And so that's why we do something like this, because weirdly enough, the trolls are just looking to mess around and don't realize most of the time that they're so close to maybe trolling us, but most trolls are just in it for the instant gratification of messing with people, that they don't put in the effort. And so just having that one layer of effort has done an excellent job of keeping weird people out of our Discord for the most part. Gillian asks, can I also ask to join the Discord in the comments? I'm not much of a writer yet, but I would love to dive into the field a bit. I also have a lot of ideas, just need to build the confidence to start. Gilligan, if you wish, by all means, reach out to us. Let us know that you wish to join Discord. And again, we'll initiate the interview process, and then we'll give you the code once you've answered the questions. Again, this is just our way of being able to get to know people better, give us a little bit of a layer of security. And yeah, we would love to see more people join. And if you are just right now in the idea phase, not a problem. Not a problem at all. You never know when one of those ideas is going to start ballooning and becoming a really cool idea. My flagship series, The Legend of the Ten Lords, that I've already written 3 books for, came out of a funky idea that I had when I walked out of a party in college. I walked out of the party, I went home, and I thought to myself, wow, what if I did a fanfic of Princess Mononoke that actually had a more satisfying romance? I gotta do something with that. And it just went from there. So Shadowbound's not coming along nicely, but it's coming along. I know exactly how that goes. You and I are right now in the same boat. Oh my gosh, I've been having a hard time writing one of my books currently because, yeah, the energy's just not there. I like the story. gotta get through this. Gah! CV says, I'm cooking many ideas. Awesome. TV Count says, a new writing lesson, finishing projects, and what to avoid when ego gets in the way. Well, TV Count, we've done a lesson on finishing projects. It's already up. You can check that live stream out. So long as it's not the one that got taken down, though. There's a little caveat to that. Let me see here. No, that was the decluttering lessons, decluttering your stories lesson. That was the one that got taken down. Let's see here. Yeah, how to finish your story. That was from 3 weeks. That was let's see here, 2 weeks ago. So our writing lesson from 2 weeks ago, that's the one on how to finish your stories. Ego getting in the way. We also kind of addressed that a little bit, but definitely something to get back to, I think, at a future point. G-Troll Tank says, I have 2 ideas right now, a superhero comic and the game I mentioned earlier. That is awesome. I'm Omega. I need to finalize the first episode for Mars Dora, though the second is quite incomplete. Well, I'm Omega. Go on ahead, work on that first episode. I'm happy that you're still working on it there. Gilligan says, probably my greatest idea for a fanfic is a Murder Drones x FNAF crossover where Uzi must find a job among humans for a week and learns a lesson on humanity as well as uncovering the mysteries of FNAF 1. Well, that's awesome. That could be really fun to read. TV account, it was mostly inspired by Earthbound and the whole issues with Yandere Sim. Oh boy, Yandere Simulator. Oh, that story. Okay, so before all of the weird stuff went down with Yandere Simulator, one of my best friends, Haley, introduced me to what was the concept of Yandere Simulator, and we had an excellent conversation about that. And then everything fell apart. Conquest says the amazing digital circus and Deltarune really been making my brain glow with ideas for the Kane tabletop RPG. Imagine if Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man had a secret love child that had Persona 5 for a babysitter. Oh boy, that sounds really over the top. Fanfics are beautiful because they're insane. They can be. Some of my fanfics are a little bit more grounded, but I do have, let's see here. I have a My Little Pony fanfic that was completely off the rails based on D&D. I have one of my favorite ones that I wrote, but it was really messy, was the Villainous Vigilantes, where a bunch of villains from different shows and books all got put together. This was insane. Trying to write Bill Cipher and Darkstalker, trying to write Darkstalker, Bill Cipher, Eisen from Bleach, a Steel Inquisitor from Mistborn, and then basically a video game Mexican villain all into one story was just absolutely insane to do. And it was basically my it ended up being, in a way, kind of my first foray into what would become the Monarch Mercenaries, which is one of my other books that you can check out if you want to read it. G-Troll TX says, okay, I just commented to join the most recent post. Hopefully I can join soon. After the live stream, G-Troll 10X, I will check it out. Thank you so much. Nick Concraft says, wow, your crossover sound bizarre. Can I read it? Yes. Again, Villainous Vigilantes on fanfiction.net. I'll put that in here. Villainous Vigilantes. I went to a party recently for the first time, and seeing the people walk around me was interesting. Seeing the crowd form around me was good for my mind. It showed me how to develop my villain into a decently written character. Whoa! Go to a party and walk away knowing how the villain is supposed to be written. How fantastic. TV Count, what about sensitive topics being introduced into stories with respect, like mental health or heavier topics? TV Account, that would be a great lesson to do later. And thank you for the recommendation. Gilligan says, do I just say I want to join the Discord on your latest post? Yeah, on a post, on a video, whatever. just comment that you wish to join, and I will reach out back to you after the stream. Comcraft says, I found a fanfic a few days ago that became a bit of a fictatio. It's a fanfic where Shigaraki from My Hero Academia at the very end gets isekai to the setting of the web novel Worm, which is basically an embodiment of what he hated most about Hero Society, and he has merged because all his quirks were returned to their original state. Oh, lovely. Lovely, lovely. All right. So, let me pull back. Let me again pull back what we got. So let's just wrap up the argument thing right here, and then we can start shifting gears. We'll shift gears then to talking about power-ups, kind of introduced later on in the story, and whether or not that's any good or if that's just a cop-out. And then we will talk about love in Deltarune Chapter 4. Okay, so let me pull this back just a wee bit. Oh, that's a great place to begin.
Hey, what are you doing?
Fight back!
Are you crazy?
And when we have the chance to see all of this flowing together and not me stopping it like every 5 to 8 seconds, you get just how cinematic this moment is.
What's wrong with you?
Why didn't you fight back?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Because I didn't fight back, that means I secretly care about you?
Again, this is how arguments should be written. Not negation, but persuasion.
I do not care about you or anyone else in this circus in the slightest. End of story. You are my playthings, and I get joy out of making you suffer. I'm the one who causes pain for fun. If I led you on, it was just to make this part hurt you more.
And there it cracks.
There's nothing more to me. So please, just stop looking.
There you go. Man, see, when you have, there's 4 great conversations happening in this episode. The 2 that are remembered the most, and rightfully so, are Jax and Pomni both times. Even though Zubul and Gangel's conversation is brilliant, as well as Kinger dropping some great life advice to Ragatha, it's all great. But the ones that we remember the most are the ones with the most action. Action helps to convey conversations. Great conversations are actionable. They are cinematic. Things are happening. You feel like it's so real, even when it's very obviously isn't. And yes, absolute kudos to Michael Kovac for just delivering an insane job with Jax. And also, I can't remember the actress who does Pomni, but she also did great as Pomni. And the animation really lends itself to this moment as well. It's just, this is so good that when I see people being like, this is just dumb millennial writing, it's like, no. You could actually take the emotion and the action of this scene and put it right up next to Dirty Harry, and it would be the exact same because they're both borrowing on the same concepts of actionable dialogue. Lizzie Friedman, thank you, TV account, and Tyler Goodman. And also to G-Turtle10X, thank you so much. Yeah, Lizzie Friedman also did an amazing job in the scene as Pomni. So just, so good. So good. Let's see here. G-Turtle10X says, speaking of Deltarune, who do you think is the knight? I think that Des got stabbed the way the Dark Fountain is opened, and she basically is stuck in her own body's dark world, and that's what the knight is. G-Turtle10X, I also believe that the knight is Des. There are some people like, well, like I saw one video where someone was trying to show how the fact that the knight switches the dark knife, the black knife, on over to the right hand sometimes rather than using the left hand all the time, that shows that they're not actually left-handed. But when I played through the game again recently, so many of the actions that the knight does are left-handed. Again, showing is very likely Des. it also fits with kind of what's building up to about the reveal of Des and Azrael. Also, another thing is that we know that the night, the roaring night, has really only shown themselves in the dark world. If Des were running around in some kind of way around hometown, it would have been seen. We might get some hints about that in episode 5. I've got a theory that I'm right now working on about what's all going on, but it's very likely that the Roaring Knight is indeed working with someone else, like Carol, probably even more people. And so, like, for instance, when Undyne got kidnapped, Dark Knight hauled Undyne to the door, through the door, and I think other people were waiting there to grab Undyne and rush to the shelter. And so, yeah, because we haven't seen any good evidence of the night being out and about otherwise, at least, and this is what's hard, is that we just don't know the state of Des at this point. And by throwing in the wrench that Gerson could be brought back to life, at least for some time, through a dark world that was opened up by someone who knew him, and Susie didn't know him when she opened up her dark world and he showed up, the wrench has been thrown in to say that I think there's probably more to the two Lighteners who take on new forms in the dark world. Like a can of worms has been opened. And oh boy, there's a lot to talk about. So much to talk about. Okay, so I'm going to quickly pop this on over to just some fun little background footage right here. So let me fun fact, Goose, Steven says, fun fact, Goose Works wanted her sister, but she turned down saying she probably doesn't fit the character, LOL. Well, we say Lizzie Friedman got an excellent opportunity, and I love that for her. All right, so let me address the whole thing about characters getting power-ups 2/3 of the way, let's say 2/3 of the way, or 3/4 of the way through a story. It can be an absolute cop-out. It absolutely can be. And it can get very frustrating unless that power-up is based on world building that was already previously established. So, for instance, in the Mistborn series, there is a part at the end of there's actually a few parts at the end of the first book that are just bonkers insane. And you're like, how does any of this work? How does any of this work? Unless you were paying attention and you come to realize, oh, so Vin is able, so Kelsier saw his vision because he consumed this metal that no one knows the ability of just yet. And it is the reverse of this other metal that is consumed, which is atium. Oh, because there's always a push and a pull. But wait a second, there's only supposed to be 8 metals. So if there's 10 metals, what does that mean? Wait a second. And so Brandon Sanderson he sets up some of the power-ups and some of the reveals for the last quarter of his book, Mistborn: The Final Empire, earlier on in the book, about the number of metals, what their purposes are. There's always a push and a pull. If atium allows you to see the future, then what's the metal that allows you to see the past? Say what? But wait a second. There's only supposed to be 8 metals. What's going on? And Sanderson is brilliant in that way of giving you actually breadcrumbs that lead to a much bigger revelation later on, where you're like, no way. And holy cow, Brandon Sanderson for a plot twist in Mistborn: The Final Empire, which was Let me look this up. Let me quickly look this up. When did Mistborn: The Final Empire come out? Mistborn, come on. Mistborn: The Final Empire release date was back in 2006, nearly 20 years ago. So almost 20 years ago, he revealed he had a plot twist that that could have been interpreted as a bit of a cop out, unless except that he had managed to do the world building well enough that you begin to realize that this is actually all part of a greater mystery, that the Lord Ruler has manipulated people's understanding of the magic that the world has in order to have a monopoly on power. And the moment that you break that monopoly on power, the Lord Ruler can actually be beaten. So what was meant to be a plot twist ends up being a setup for a revelation going all the way to the Fifth Way of Kings book, Wind and Truth, almost 20 years later. Brandon Sanderson, you absolute mad lad. And again, he gets away with it because he put in the work with his world building and explaining how his magic system works really early on, and then building up to the fact that the Lord Ruler had a secret, and that secret allows him to have a monopoly on magic within the world. If you can break that secret, if you can crack the code, then you take back his power. And it's really, really good. Now then, that's a fun twist. And it's a fun twist that's based on the world building that's been already established. Dennis has got to go. Dennis, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. It was awesome having you here there in the chats. Now then, if I think about, though, like a reveal where you're like, wait, what? Where did that come from? So I love Fablehaven. I love the series. I love all the books. However, at the end of the first book, when Kendra is just all like, I now have an army of massive fairies that allow me to defeat an archdemon. Yay! It comes out of almost nowhere, because so much of what's been developed, because so much of what is explained to us earlier in the book is that the fairies don't help people. And so Kendra suddenly having a bunch of fairies now like adore her and go to war for her and change for her, just is like, what the heck? Where did this come from? It's cool. And again, I love the book, but it definitely something that feels like it doesn't belong. And if you only read the first book, it would feel like a cop-out. Brandon Mull saves that moment in the series by building on it in all the subsequent books and by explaining how that happened. But the thing is that the build-up to it is very, very lax, and all the other books seem to be more like justifying the end. When you're trying to justify the end rather than having built up to it or built up to that power reveal, it doesn't work very well. And so this is again comes back to what I said earlier, that I think we need to now go back through all the episodes of the Amazing Digital Circus and find every possible moment where Kinger did something that he should not have been able to do, and that we all just thought it was the circus being funny and Kinger being funny, but it could actually be a moment where Kinger is tapping either into the code or the potential of the digital circus and doing something like what he did in this episode where he heals Ragatha. And yes, Dennis, I did really enjoy this episode. It was great. Gillian says, I never thought they would top episode 3, but holy crap, I have a new fave episode. Yes, this episode is awesome. This episode has all the right action, it has great character moments, great humor, great heart. It is intense. Holy cow. And it shows in how quickly. So if I go and check here, let's see here, how many views does this have? It has already over 50 million views after a week of being online. This means that it is getting close to the 66 million views that episode 5 had. And episode 5 was really good. Episode 4 surprisingly has like 96 million views, which is, I mean, it's still a great episode, but like, wow, a lot of people really love Gangle freaking out. But what this goes to show is that this episode is beloved. It's getting lots of rewatches. It's pulling people in order to get that many millions of views that quickly. Holy cow. If we were to start converting this, for instance, on over to, like, let's say, interaction with like movies over in the movie theater, the Amazing Digital Circus episode 6, by comparison, has beaten out almost every movie this year, with the exception of the Lilo and Stitch live action remake, which is both amazing and sad at the same time. Sad that the Lilo and Stitch remake had that much interaction. That's bizarre to me. How did that atrocity do that? But then one episode of the Amazing Digital Circus, this episode in a week's time, has basically beaten out every other movie in comparable terms of interaction and views. That is insane. That is well and truly insane. Oh my gosh. Tiger says, I bet that Glitch production will reach 20 million subs. They could. Let's see, where are they at right now with their subs? They are right now at 15.6 million subs. Oh, yeah. And I think that when they start having Knights of Guinevere, I think they're going to pull in even more people who are more into 2D animation or the crowd that follows even more darker stuff that haven't yet latched on to the Gaslight District. They definitely have potential to just keep on roping in even more people. I would not be surprised if they reach 20 million subs, because they're doing fantastically well right now. Concrest says, I think the Lilo and Stitch remake got those numbers because there was so much time without anything Lilo and Stitch, from what I remember. So it's likely a bunch of parents bringing their kids to see their childhood. Exactly. And it wasn't even their real childhood. Disney as a company sucks, but they could at least give us some good movies. Yeah, no, and they've given us great movies in the past. It's just that Disney's totally lost its way. And it's shocking and depressing. Zool popping in there on the other with their cat ears was one of the funniest moments for me due to just how out of nowhere it is. Yes. Steve says, I feel like each episode gets better than the last. Oh, yeah. No, the episodes keep improving, especially in terms of animation. It's incredible what Glitch Productions is doing with smaller budgets and a small workforce. I think by now they actually have like 100 people working for them, which is impressive, but that is tiny compared to what so many other studios have going for them. So I have a question. If there's an even and an odd and a positive and opposite, as someone who hasn't read the books yet, can I know the answer without a spoiler yet? So this is in relation to the Mistborn. So let me see if I can get this right. So you want to know what the spoiler is in terms of like what metal, or you want to know what metal unlocks the ability to see the past? You'll have to read the book, and I highly recommend reading Mistborn. It is such a good trilogy. It is so good. It's one of the few books, say not the first book, but the third book in the series, The Hero of Ages, brings me to tears. It is such a beautiful ending. Holy cow. Oh, it's just, yeah. It's one of those things that you just have to read to experience it for yourself. And if you thought that the first book shocked you, the third book comes and just rings your bell over and over again. It is so intense. But yeah, I can't really tell you what the medal is without spoiling it. Especially because you don't have any concept of what ATM is without reading the books. Lord McGurk is here. Woo! Oh, I was watching One Piece and missed the stream. It's already midnight, so I can't stick around, but I hope you have a good rest of your stream. Well, thank you, Lord McGurk, for popping in anyway and saying hello. Comicraft says, I remember when I was reading the Time Watch, the time travel tabletop RPG, and one of the sample scenarios of the official book suggests Walt Disney falls in a time whom the past figures out time travel is real and thus time travelers. So it changes the past and rules the world to get time travelers to rescue him from before he changed the world into a giant Disney attraction. That is convoluted, and I love it. Fabio, and people pointed out it was dark, so Kinger lucidly agreed for the cat accessories. Yes, he did, because Kinger is just amazing that way. All right. So to round off my thoughts about revelations about power-ups and the likes later on to the story, if you want to make it work out without it feeling like a cop-out and having to justify it, it needs to be something that's firmly established in the available world building early on. Whether that be something that's blatantly done or hinted at. And I think it's more fun when it's only hinted at and you have all the rules necessary to make sense of it. And not anything like Yu-Gi-Oh! Which, hey, I loved watching Yu-Gi-Oh! But let's be honest here. Where Yugi's going up against Relinquished from Maximilian Pegasus's deck, which is an amazing monster. Definitely not all that usable or practical in the actual card game, but in the anime, sure, Relinquished is an absolutely horrifying monster to go up against, and then Yugi's like, I have nothing that can beat it except that card, and it's like, wait a second, you mean to tell me that you've had this thing called the Blackluster Ritual this whole time? And wait a second, the Blackluster Ritual allows you to summon the Blackluster Soldier, which is on par with the Blue Eyes White Dragon. But wait, I thought the Blue Eyes White Dragon was the most powerful standalone card in the entire game. Why on earth do you now have this Blackluster Soldier, which is comparable to the Blue Eyes White Dragon? Where the heck did that come from? I will now sacrifice this from Relinquished and summon the Blackluster Soldier. And then Maximilian Pegasus gets defeated and it's cool, but you're like, where did that come from? Comicraft, sorry, gotta go. My phone is low on battery charge. Well, Comicraft, thank you so much for hanging out with us for as long as you did. It was great having you here. Okay, so after all of that, let's shift gears into our last topic of the night, which is Deltarune Chapter 4 and the topic of love. Okay, I know it's a little weird when I say it that way, but it's kind of hard not to. Romance or love in Deltarune. Holy cow. Oh boy. So, Stormcrow was here earlier saying that he's really looking forward to when I do the cruisy video. Yeah, this is one of the things that's been frustrating me about this week being so hectic and just so crazy. I was supposed to have my Deltarune Chapter 4 review done by this weekend. It will not happen. It will happen sometime next week, hopefully. Which then means I have to kick back the cruisy video a little bit because I refuse to release that video until I have shown everyone, hey guys, I'm here for more than just the shipping. I can also talk about these stories and what these stories actually mean beyond just the romance. However, Chapter 4 basically grabs you by your shirt and shakes you and says, romance is important. But wait a second. Love has different meanings here in this chapter. So, for instance, Fabian says, the way to prophecies are all caps, so it can trip us up on love or love. Yeah, we're talking love as in power, or are we talking love as in romance? And I'm going to deliver to you guys something I've been thinking about that, again, I don't know how many other people are talking about this. I hope other people have seen this because it's kind of blatant. If I'm the first one that you're hearing this from, holy cow, I am breaking ground. But anyway, it says, on topic of Deltarune, did you cover the mantle fight in your video on chapter 3? I'm Omega. I covered it a little bit, but not in depth. It's definitely something that would be fun to do an in-depth video of in the future, because everything to get that mantle was creepy and so important. And basically it's like, hey, if you do this, remember how there's the weird route, but if you didn't want to play the weird route, guess what? We just forced you to play the weird route. Oh yeah. Power. Love. TDVA says, we all know Jockington's friend. Yes, Jockington is and because Jockington will grow the beard. And what a magnificent beard it is. I wish I could grow out a beard like that. If I ever grow out my beard, it's wiry and disgusting. Which is why I normally shave. I like having the 5 o'clock shadow look, but I do not like growing out my beard because it just doesn't look good at all. G Turtle Tank says, I think the prophecy is meant to be interpreted different ways depending on the route. Bingo. Bingo right there. So let's already talk about love and love. So here is something to consider. We know that Susie is the prophesied hero. However, Carol and Chris and potentially other people, I really do think it's more than just Carol and Chris at this point, wanted to fulfill the prophecy, and Noelle was meant to be the girl. Noelle was always supposed to be the one to go into the dark world with Chris. When we go back to chapter 1 and Chris is backing away from the dark world, and it's like, it looks like they're scared. This is it's not because Chris is scared, but rather this is all not according to plan. Chris was supposed to take Noelle into the dark world. Chris is supposed to get into a relationship with Noelle, so that way, by hook or by crook, Noelle will gain power. The power of love, which for those of you who have not played Undertale, love is the leveling from killing monsters and gaining power by destroying them. Power through combat. However, if you're not pursuing the weird route and instead you're with Susie, it's about love. Not love that comes through power, but the love of relationships. And so that's the power of love, that you can either get the power of murdering people and gaining strength, or you can have the power of becoming friends with everyone, even pursuing romance if you so wish. And what Toby is doing in chapter 4, which I don't think enough people are talking about, is that he has set up nearly every relationship to crash and burn. The festival, I will be shocked if the festival does not have people's hearts getting shattered. Because if you think about it, by the end of chapter, not even by the end of chapter 4, before you even get into the dark world, you've got Susie saying to Carol that she's going to take Noelle to the fair. I think that I personally interpret that as Susie is just like, screw you, woman. I am taking your daughter to have fun at the fair because she deserves to be with friends and she deserves to do what she wants to do. Screw you, lady. That's basically how Susie's acting. Noelle, on the other hand, is like, oh, be still my heart. My crush is taking me out on a date. Thank you. Thank you, Angel. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Meanwhile, Birdley's all like, Chris, you're going to fall for me. Susie will fall for me. I am going to take Noelle on a date to the fair. Birdley's going to the festival thinking that he is going to have a date with 3 people at the same time. Now then, For those of you who are new to Camille's harem and haven't heard this story yet, I'm going to let you know that I have dated 3 people at the same time in the same place at a dance. Yes, there's a story behind that. So it can happen. Will it happen for Birdley? The answer is no. It will not happen for Birdley. For a number of reasons. Birdley's going to get his poor little Blue Jay heart broken. And that's absolutely going to happen. Yeah, Camille lore drop. Yeah, say it, lore. G-Turtle Tank says, wait, tell the story. I'll tell the story here in just a moment. But, so Birdley is expecting to go on a date with 3 people at the same time. Ain't going to happen. Caddy wants to go out on a date with Noelle, but Noelle is going to be with Susie. Then also, don't underestimate Birdley. Was it polyamorous at least? No, I'm Omega. It definitely wasn't a polyamorous moment. I'll explain that when I tell the story. But then also, for anyone who's like, no, Chris is just friends with Susie, I am sorry. There is way too much detail across 4 chapters of this game that very, very concretely point to Chris having a massive crush on Susie. So many details. The thing is that we don't yet know where Susie swings. We don't know who she's interested in. As a Cruzy shipper, of course, I'm going to say that she likes Chris, and I think I've got the evidence to back it up when I drop my Cruzy video. But at the same time, I could be totally wrong because it's left at this point rather ambiguous. So much about the festival hangs on who Susie is going to pick. So we got Chris, we got Caddy, we've got Birdley, we got Noelle, Susie. Jockington is going to get thrown into the mix because he supports Caddy in everything. And then on top of that, we've got Pizza Pants thinking he's going to meet his dream girl at the fair. And we know it's his co-worker who's been roped into this by Bratty. Meanwhile, Bratty's got some weird thing going on with potentially falling for older Caddy, and maybe the same way with Caddy liking Bratty. It's a little bit hard to tell at the moment. So we've got all, and then don't forget that Asgore is trying to get back together with Toriel, and that's not working while Toriel is... I'm sorry. Anyone who says that Toriel and Sans were not shagging at the end of chapter 4, I tell you, please go back and listen to the audio. Oh my gosh, Toby, you sly dog, putting that in there. Because when I went back and listened to it again, I'm like, oh my gosh, Toby, you absolutely had Chris listening to his mom getting her freak on through the walls. Oh my gosh, no. So we've got so much romantic stuff going around, and almost all of these characters are set up in one way or another to have their hearts broken. And it will all come down to 1 or 2 characters choosing something. And so that fits what Gerson says in his fight against him, where the chapter 5 is this field of jealousy, of envy. I think it's the word they use, of envy. And so I think that we're getting set up for chapter 5 to really be a lot about love, about romance, and the real difference between the different routes. Whether we're talking about gaining power through just obliterating people, you can go and obliterate everyone without doing the weird route and just be Chris and Susie. Or you can go the weird route and power up Noelle, which is what Carol wants you to do. Or you can go the friendship route and become friends with everyone, which is building up all different kinds of relationships. And if you go that route, holy cow, how are you going to manage all of these different romantic expectations? Oh, this is going to be nuts. Sherry J is here. Woohoo! Yo, back to you. I love how Hannah's like skull and crossbones here. Fabio, to be fair, why was the music that slowed down right at the end? That's not just how low pitched things get when muffled. They both turned the speed. They both turned the speed down themselves. Yeah, yep. The speed of the jitterbug can be changed by them. Come on. Yes, can be changed. To go slower. Mattress mumbo time. Craft. I'm back. What did I miss? You missed everything that made sense of why I just said mattress mumbo time. All right. For those who have not heard the story before, since I brought up the whole like I have been there with Birdley, where Birdley's like, I will be dating 3 people at the same time at the fair. LOL, still on Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay. Yeah, you got some catching up to do there, Common Craft. So in college, my freshman year of college, there was a special dance that was put on that was meant only for couples. People were only allowed to go in if they had a date. I didn't get a date for this dance. So I intended to crash it by showing up stag. That was my goal. And I snuck in. I snuck in without a ticket. And I'm like, I'm stag at this dance for couples. So I am there. I'm surrounded by all these different couples. And I'm just there because I want to dance. I want to cut loose, cut the rug. Yeah, I'm flailing my arms, kicking out my legs. I'm just having a good time. Who knows what proper dances moves are? Well, at this dance, there are 3 girls from out of town that I had met at a previous shindig, at another dance. So these girls had a very interesting dynamic between them. There were 2 really tall, model hot Hispanic girls, and then they had a friend who was short, plump, round, but very cute. And there's nothing against this girl. In fact, she was very attractive, very nice girl too. The thing is that when you have 2 really tall, model-looking, hot Hispanic girls, all the guys are going to want to ask them out, ask them for a dance, and not the short, plump girl. So what these girls did is that if anyone asked out one of the tall girls first, the other 2 would join. So imagine this. Imagine if you're the guy who's all like, yes, I'm taking out this hot chick onto the dance floor, and we're going to have a good time. And suddenly there's another girl on one shoulder and another girl at the other shoulder, and they're giving you these big looks while dancing with you, kind of awkwardly, and then their friend is like totally fine with it and is spending more interaction with them than with you. It creeps the guys out. And the guys are like, I watched this as like every guy who tried to ask out one of the tall girls first to the dance was just all like, no, and fled. You could tell they were so creeped out about it. Well, at the first time I met them, I had asked out one of the tall girls to the dance, or I'd asked one of them for a dance. The other 2 then sandwiched me, and I was like, "Oh, this is something." All right, everyone, hug dance time. And so I was like, wrap my arms like around these. I did my best to wrap my arms around all 3 girls and be like, "Okay, so how's it going? This is something new." And then I found out through observation and then through trial and error that if you asked their short friend to the dance first, if you asked her first before asking their 2 girls, if you asked the short girl for the dance first, the 2 friends would not sandwich you. Rather instead, let you have the chance to dance with their friend alone. If you asked their short friend to dance with them first, you could then dance with one of the 2 hot girls and not get sandwiched. Me personally, I'm like, you know what? I don't mind the sandwich. So when I snuck into the couples dance and saw these 3 there, I'm like, first of all, how did you guys get in here? Second of all, you want to dance? And so for that night, I had those 3 girls to myself because I was the only guy who knew what was good, who knew the pattern, who knew what you had to do. Plus, everyone else there, with the exception of like one or two other guys, apparently, we're all there with a date. They were all couples, so that meant all for me. So throughout the entire, and I had so many people either like really angry with me or really impressed because like, dude, how the heck did you get 3 girls? And I'm just like, I know what the secret code is, man. I've never experienced that since. That was a freshman year miracle. It never happened again. So, could Birdley experience the same? The answer is no, because of the 3, one of them is Susie, and Susie most definitely is not going to be in a throuple or a quadruple with Birdley. Not even in the slightest. So yeah, sorry, Birdley. Birdley's got the Riz, but Birdley doesn't have that kind of Riz. He will fail, poor little Blue Jay. It's made even funnier because of the crush that he secretly harbors on Susie, which we know about, but he thinks that no one else does. All right, let's see here. Let me catch up with some of the guys have posted right here. Conquest says, one thing I want to point to Toriel is that from what I have seen is that while well-meaning, she's at least a bit neglectful. She's the only character that knew Chris before that didn't notice Chris's change of behavior, and that is damning. There is also that blood stain in Chris's side of the bedroom that Toriel doesn't mention or even acknowledge, yet Susie cleans very easily in Chapter 4 if the player interacts with it. Yeah, Comicraft, that's great pointing out. Yeah, Toriel not noticing before Noelle, man. Yeah, yikes. CBA, yeah, Toriel's a bit neglectful towards Chris's actual needs. Also, why the heck do they just have a knife? That's not just something any kid does. That's because Chris is ready for all kinds of things. Jep M. Judah, LOL. G Turtle says impeccable Riz. Comicraft, also Toriel, from what she knew, had seen a freak prowling around the very last night and her car tires were slashed. The officer never came, and yet she is not worried at all for Chris and Susie. Well, she is worried, which is why she wants them to stay at home, stay in the house. She tries to play it down. So she's not being neglectful that way, but she's definitely not piecing things together like she should. Even if she assumed they were at Noelle's place, the fact that they came back so late should have made her worried, or at least checked if they were at the Holiday's house. Okay, I see now. Yeah, no, after the fact, the next day, yeah, she should have been way more worried about what was happening with the kids. Yeah, no, there's definitely, Toriel's just not in the right headspace. CVA says Birdley is not rizzing the Huz. I can only see him maybe getting with Chris because we've seen small hints that Chris likes Birdley. Well, here's the thing. Chris does, I think, care for Birdley. Not romantically, but more like ironically, platonically. Like, I get you, Birdley. You also like hot gamer chicks. I like hot gamer chicks too. Don't worry. I got you. I also know that you're not as smart as you think you are. Don't worry. I don't care if you're like number 1 or number 2. Sure, I'm actually technically smarter than you, but I'm not going to lord it over you because I understand. I understand what it's like to be the odd one out. So I get you, Birdley. I think that's the thing is like Chris. I think Chris identifies with a lot of who Birdley is. G Turtle Time says I gotta go because it's past midnight for me, but thanks. It's been real fun. Excited for the new content to hopefully join the Discord. Oh yes, and thank you for commenting, G Turtle 10X. Again, after the live stream, I will respond to everyone's comment who's requested to join our Discord. Omega says, not going to lie, my brain went to No Evil episode 10 when Calamity is consoling Icky on being led on. Oh, that's just sad. But yes, that makes absolute sense. I'm Omega. Another thing is that unless my memory's messing with me, at the beginning of chapter 1, Toriel hugs Chris. At the end of the chapter, Asgore does the same, but then walks away and mentions he forgot Chris doesn't like hugs. Toriel doesn't, yet I saw people criticizing Asgore for hugging Chris at that moment. Yeah, poor Asgore just can't win. But Asgore is just such a loving, bumbling, fun guy that, man, it's yeah, the poor guy. And at least he remembered. Yeah, Toriel doesn't quite seem to really recall what Chris really needs. See, I saw that Stuffed Alpaca did an analysis about gender and gender roles in Deltarune. I need to check that out. I haven't yet watched it. Asgore said, I forgot you don't like hugs. I forgot if you don't like hugs like that. I see it specifically as a hug that lifts Chris off the ground. Well, maybe that's the case, but we do know that Chris felt very ashamed of Toriel holding their hand while at school, and Susie made fun of them for it as well. So I think that maybe it is that Chris doesn't so much like public displays of affection, especially where they know it's going to get them bullied. So yeah, it's all kinds of rough, but bringing it finally all back around again to the aspect of love. Yeah, there's, we're getting set up for a real confrontation in terms of romantic love, but thinking about power love, which is a concept from Undertale, where the more that you kill, the more you destroy, the more powerful you get. That is basically the weird route. And what's so perverse about it, as you guys were bringing up earlier in the chat, so you've got the thorn ring, which is like a wedding ring forcibly put on Noelle, binding her to Chris. The thing is that I believe that Carol and co, whoever it is that she's working with, are very, very intent on Chris and Noelle becoming a couple to ensure that that Noelle, that love comes to her, that she becomes powerful enough to fulfill the prophecy. Because if they fulfill the prophecy, I believe that the ultimate end game is that they want to get Des back. And the way to get Des back is to see the story through to the end. We don't yet know how that's going to play out. We're missing critical information. But why would you threaten the destruction of the whole world unless there was a real purpose to it? And we know that the heroes can save the world if something is done. Something that is horrifying to both Susie and to Ralsei. And Chris very likely knows as well. We, as the player, are the ones who are left in the dark. Everyone else, all the heroes, know what the prophecy requires. So the thing is that Carol's willing to go through with something absolutely horrible and really torture her own daughter, basically to get her other daughter back. That's really, really messed up. Oh my gosh. And that's where I definitely want to do a full theory video in the future about what really I call it the hometown conspiracy, what the hometown conspiracy really is, because I think that, yeah, Carol is chasing after a dream from a bygone day that cannot work out at this point. But the prophecy gives her the chance to make it so. And I think that Carol wants the Dreamers and the Holidays to be connected by marriage. I think that that's literally the plan. That's one of the goals. And I'm going to be honest. I think that Des and Azrael were not the couple that Carol had in mind. I could be wrong about that. I could find out that Carol also manipulated Azrael and Des before things happened with Chris and Noelle. But I actually think that as best friends best friends' families for hanging out and talking and loving life and just sharing everything together, that Carol's just all like, my darling Noelle would be so perfect with Chris. Yes, I should make this happen. I really feel like that's what weird thing is going through Carol's head. I'm just like, lady, no, please, no. But yeah, Carol's got love on the brain, and it's both actual romance, even if horribly forced, and the power that comes with destruction. Carol is going for love that she feels she can control, which is wholly unhealthy, but it fits in with everything that's been revealed to us about her character and about the sad state of the Holiday household. I had to take a drink of water there. Keep yourselves hydrated. It's the summertime. Okay, so let me catch up with some of the stuff you guys have been saying. Commoncraft, I have also seen people unironically claiming that Toriel's drunk scene is healthy because it means she's moving on and having fun despite all the parallels with El Niño and La Niño in Chapter 3. Yes, people seriously think that drunk Toriel was empowering despite being a textbook case of a trope of a parent falling apart. Yes, and it's so difficult because it can't have been easy for Toriel. And when I do my analysis for Deltarune Chapter 4, one of the things I've made a particular note of is that we've gotten so much hometown drama, and Toriel is at the center of it. I don't know how many of you have ever been through a situation like this before. I have. Raise my hand in terms of this, where you are the center of everyone's negative attention. Where people that you know and people that you don't know all about your dirty business and judge you for it without knowing the full context. Toriel is one of the teachers at the school, so most people in a small place like Hometown will know her simply because their kids are taught by her. On top of that, she's the wife of hometown hero Asgore. So she's very prominent, and she was best friends with the Holidays, who control the town. Toriel is in everyone's field of view. She can't escape that. Her embarrassing separation from Asgore is on everyone's mind constantly because Asgore will not give up. Toriel can escape. Because that's the case, it makes sense that Toriel would then want to latch onto someone new, like Sans. Sans is new to this place. Sans is new, Sans is funny, Sans is fresh. Sans has no preconceived notion, no prejudice towards her. And so she's going to latch onto someone like Sans. This is a chance for her to escape that pressure, escape that horrible limelight for just a moment. The sad thing is that it comes at the cost of their attention to their child, Chris, who desperately needs attention from a loving parent, especially the parent who has custody of them. And on top of that, everyone will know that Toriel was having a night with Sans, and whether she was shagging Sans or not, climbing that mountain, doing what Zubul would do, or what Zubul wants to do, whether that happened or not, everyone who finds out about this is going to think that Toriel's having an affair with Sans, and what that will mean is actually more damage to Toriel. It's a situation where you can understand where she's coming from, but the fact that she did it flies in the face of reason and is just going to cause more problems. And that's one of the things that's just so difficult about the situation. Like, if you're being honest, your heart should go out to Toriel because she's not in a great spot, but it's a choice that is hard to agree with if you're taking the whole picture in. Sometimes you need to be a little bit selfish. Sometimes you need to focus on yourself. That's actually a healthy thing to do every now and then. But it should never come at the cost of other people's well-being. Should never happen that way. And Chris's well-being was definitely put to the wayside at the night of chapter 4. So that's my take on that. Toby Fox has a lot of attention to detail, so it can be difficult to distinguish between some things that could be mistakes or unintentional. Fabio, excuse me, as I've basically said once, she has all the right to move on, but the way so much of this can look messed up for Chris, they knew Asgore before he started getting desperate, man. It doesn't all take away from the experience or story for me, but I did think that Caddy would have a bigger role in the story so far. Seems like Deltarune's story has a more specific defined path than Undertale. Yes, it does. And Toby did tell us that early on. And yeah, I was expecting Caddy to be way more prominent in the story. I think that Caddy is going to become more prominent going into chapter 5. But yeah, wow. We've only got 3 more chapters left to go. And there's her not worrying that much about Chris and Susie disappearing for a pretty long time. To her, the whole chapter after church was over. Concraft, I noticed that there's a bit of a theme in Deltarune that the characters who have the most ability to act and change are too ignorant to act upon it. Oh, very interesting. I seen a piece of fan art have Carol coupling little Chris and Noelle smiling up thinking, like, they'll represent monster humanity relationships greatly. I've seen that, and it made me laugh. Concraft, especially with Susie, Toriel has the potential to shift a lot of stuff in Chapter 3 and sleeps through it. Susie has a lot of ability to mess with stuff with her traits of being able to defy expectations and be truly free, yet always takes everything at face value to the point of ignorance. Or naivete. She's a very naive character because this is all new to her. TV count. How's this? For an example, writing that treats sensitive topics respectfully. Those cringe Tumblr comics that do these stories just because it's hot. Yeah, say TV account. Yeah, don't just simply jump on a bandwagon because, oh, that's what's cool right now. It annoys me so much that when autism started coming more into the public recognition of this is a thing and it's something that we need to understand and be nice about and not just speak down to people of autism, tell them to shape up. The moment that happened, everyone started making all these autistic characters without actually understanding what autism was. And basically what they made was that they made characters who were suffering from the effects of brain aneurysms and the loss of cognitive ability, rather than making autistic people who are just like you and me. And really the difference is that their form of logic just ends up being different so much of the time, which makes it sometimes difficult to empathize and sympathize. Not that they wouldn't if they could. And that's the thing about autistic people. They're not bad at all. And they're not stupid either. I've got so many autistic people in my family. And it's just that, you get to figure out how they operate, how they tick, and you accommodate that. The next thing you know is that once you've figured out how to accommodate for those ticks, then you can have a perfectly fine conversation, perfectly fine relationship with someone who's autistic that feels normal. Because guess what? It is! And I hate how people took the idea of autism and ran with it to basically make people who were mentally handicapped. It's like you took this topic, you took this social topic, this health topic, and you ran with it in a direction that you shouldn't have because you didn't understand it. You only did it because it was a popular talking point. And that's just dumb. And it's very disrespectful and hurtful to people's understanding and concept of people who have autism. CDVA says, I honestly really like how Undertale characters aren't central to the story in Deltarune. Let these new characters have their own story. Exactly. We know Deltarune came before Undertale, and they have many parallels, but I wonder if there will be direct links. Deltarune is an AU where the war never happened, at least as far as we know. Concraft says Susie never realized in chapter 1 that since Lancer is the prince, fighting the king means fighting his father, and the dark nerds are objects in chapter 2 despite having all the clues to realize it. Susie never picks up on Noelle's feelings. Yes, and again, a lot of this comes because Susie is just naive. But here's the thing, is that by chapter 4, Susie has come to finally accept and understand what's going on, and starts being very considerate of the stuff that she comes across, the people that she comes across. And where she had rejected the idea of obvious romance earlier, she starts being very excited by it. At the beginning of chapter 3, despite knowing that the knight is the one supposed to making all the fountains, and they welcome the dark world, implies the knight was right there in the room with them while everyone was asleep. Actually, Susie missed out on that detail. Susie missed out on the connection about the knight and the creating the fountain. She only knows about making the fountains and not necessarily the role of the knight. She's missing it. She, like, even though she hears things that should clue her in, she missed the information that we got as the player. CVA says, am I just delusional with Caddy? The whole occult thing, her being the only one showing so much interest with magic, her being sort of friends with Chris when they were younger. Maybe she could have even learned about Dark Worlds from her own. I'll just say this, like, that's not. I don't think that's delusional, CDVA. I think that Caddy knows way more than we're acknowledging. I think she's way more involved. And I'm very interested to see where things go. Like, yes, we can just pass off some of her comments as just weird teen occult stuff. But I think that she knows some stuff about the Dark World. I don't think that she knows what we know about the Dark World or what Chris knows, but I think that the concept of the Dark World would not surprise her because of what she's done with the occult stuff. And Noelle invited her on over because she hoped that Caddy's information about the occult would help her out with whatever weird stuff she's been going through, when neither one of them fully realized of obviously what the situation is. Another thing, Noelle has the ability to break most games she interacts with by accident, has a lot of power, yet is kept ignorant of Dark Worlds. Yeah, because Noelle does not want to accept that things are not okay. Like, Noelle is willfully ignorant. Noelle runs from every revelation that would help her out. And this is confirmed by how she interacts with Chris in chapter 4. And how she, if you decide to go to QC's diner, she runs from the idea that Susie might be romantically interested in Chris. And so she's willfully ignorant, whereas Susie's more naive and is learning. People have used Caddy as an example to talk about magic being real in Deltarune, but is seen as this obscure occult thing. So almost no one has magic experience, and whoever does, only a faint magic. Fabio, I think that's correct right there. CVA says, as someone with ADHD, I hate being called stupid for forgetting things or just communicating differently. Yeah, and if we had Nate on here with us tonight, Nate also has ADHD, and hearing from him is very important and helpful. Funny thing is that I've had people try to diagnose me. I probably have a strand of ADHD combined with OCD, maybe combined with a little bit of autism. The whole thing where people say everyone's on the spectrum. I don't like hearing that because it trivializes the people for whom being further along the spectrum is a big deal. Understand who people are. Don't trivialize it. That's my personal take. I also think that we're more than whatever diagnoses we get or whatever box people try to sort us into. If someone's got ADHD, all that means is there's a different way to interact with that person and develop your relationship, and you can still have a fully fine, perfectly functioning relationship. Nate and I are very close friends, and his ADHD is just a flavor to that friendship. Doesn't change anything as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's how people should view those who have a diagnosed element to themselves. I wouldn't even call it necessarily a hindrance unless it is something that, for instance, like it's brain damage. Then of course that's a hindrance. But yeah, having ADHD, autism, OCD, bipolar, those are just aspects to a person. That's not who the person is or what the person is. Comcast says, the thing about neurodivergent characters, I remember reading a fanfic a while back I enjoyed despite not being all that good. The author mentioned very later of how it was his attempt to write an autistic character, and I thought it was weird because the MC felt normal and reasonable. Then I read it again after getting my diagnosis, and seeing that comment again makes me go, oh. Also, the thing about the implication of the Roaring Night, I thought Susie already knew it was the night making the fountains because she had the whole monologue at the beginning of chapter 4 of how the night is the one making the dark. So remember back to chapter 3. Chapter 3 brings it all together for Susie when she confronts the night. Because when we get the information about the night creating the fountain, the first real solid detail that we get of that is when we've separated from Susie and Susie's working with Birdley to get to Noelle. And then you go with Ralsei into the projection room. Queen brings it up right before her fights. But if you do not know about the projection room, Queen's lore drop makes no sense. Like, it's just like, where did this come from? But so Susie heard it, it doesn't make any sense. Susie meets the night, everything now makes sense. That's the way that I saw things finally connecting for Susie. Should Susie be this naive? No, she shouldn't be. But I chalk that up to the fact that as Susie brings up herself in chapters 3 and 4, she hasn't connected well with people. And when you don't connect well with people, it's very hard to actually get a proper read on other people and on the situation around you. And that's something I had to learn for myself, thinking that, I can read people without actually becoming friends with them. And you can't. You have to get to know people and get to know the world before you can draw good conclusions about everything that you're learning. Which is, in my opinion, good writing on Toby's part. Yes, it can feel forced, and at times it absolutely is, I'll be honest. But I give it a little bit more credit where it comes to Susie, and with Noelle, it's absolutely intentional, which makes Noelle a frustrating character to me. I like Noelle, but Noelle just, there's choices and things that she makes, things that she says where I'm just like, girl, please, no. Especially the way that she treats Chris is just, weirdly enough, as awful as this is, the weird route actually gives Noelle a better relationship with Chris, as awful as that is, because by force, you're making Noelle realize that Chris is not a bad person by doing bad things to her. It's so messed up. And so, like, the situation is awful. Chris is not a bad person. You, as the player, are a bad person for doing what you're doing in the weird route. Oh, it's all kinds of messed up. Toby really went to a dark place with the weird route. I also read someone else mention how Deltarune seems to have a reoccurring theme of things being restrained and repetitive outside of Dark Worlds, and I saw it too. Every chapter reveals the town is more and more closed off. Very few people go out or come into town. Chapter 1, the only exit is closed by police tape. Chapter 2, there's no internet. Chapter 3, the TV shows only reruns. Yep, it always makes you think, is like hometown just in a weird like scientific bubble? It is. Because it is a giant experiment. Fabio says, the way my mind got to the image of the night fight here and then the black knife started playing in. Let's cut Susie some slack. There's a chance to forget something you learned only 2 days ago, then got mentioned like once yesterday after you just woke up. Yes. Chapter 4, the most popular he is based on a popular local book, which is based on the local religion. Oh, yeah. Yep. Actually, Lars said a big gaster thing. Oh yes, yes. Gaster. For everyone who says that Gaster isn't a part of this game, I'm like, oh my gosh. What are you guys thinking here? Say one of the last Deltarune fanfics that I wrote were based on the idea of like rabid fans of Gerson's stories, creating dark worlds, trying to find Gerson or find where he had the rest of his book series, so that way they could finish the series. Kind of like how I knew people when Robert Jordan died who wanted Wheel of Time to continue. They're all like I will petition for Robert Jordan to get resurrected immediately or brought back to life, something, so that way we can get the rest of the book series because I need it to be finished. And thankfully, Robert Jordan's wife got in contact with Brandon Sanderson, and the series was completed. And yeah, so Wheel of Time got completed. Will Game of Thrones will Song of Ice and Fire ever get finished? Who knows? Sounds very interesting. Have you written it? Yes, I have. I have written it. In fact, actually, last Chief Weitzer. Okay. Let me pull up. I need to get back to finishing my working again on my crossover fanfic for Amphibia, Gravity Falls, and the Owl House. I haven't worked on that in so long, and I absolutely want to one of these days finish that up. Okay, so let's see here. So I've got the different different cruisy adventures. So here I'm gonna put some links right here. So Cruisy Summertime, which was the first one. All right, so there's the link to the first one. Then there was a Cruisy Halloween Adventure, which was then the second, and Cruisy Christmas Adventure. Each one is an adventure where you've got Chris and Susie growing together as a couple, which again, being a cruisy shipper is what I enjoy doing. But as these adventures go on, there's this growing danger as these uber fans of Gerson's series learn how to create their own dark worlds and are trying to impose their will on hometown and especially on the teens, who they're all like, you are the key for us getting the rest of the story. Here, Conquest says, I found fanfic in AO3 and Reddit that is edited Deltarune images format. It is Noelle and Rudy playing games only to come across a copy of Deltarune. I remember seeing this one, which gave me an idea of doing something similar, except playing Deltarune causes Noelle to get a human soul in her world due to how screwed space and time get that deed. Okay, that's cool right there, Commoncraft. And I do remember that story. It was posted quite a bit on Reddit for a while. Omega says, Gasser is Deltarune's version of Drosselmeyer from Princess Tutu. Oh, wow, Princess Tutu reference. We haven't gotten one of those in a long time. Oh, man. I remember when Princess Tutu was all the rage for those people back in high school who were all like, I like anime. I can't tell anyone that I like it because I'll get beaten up after school. All right. Let's see here. What else to say? I already said my thing about love. I do have I'm going to come back to this concept in a much more organized, thoughtful way when I do my Deltarune analysis for Chapter 4, when talking about Chris and Susie, the cruisy ship that is presented to us in the most recent chapters, and also when I do my video about about what I call the hometown conspiracy, because there is something that just feels so multi-layered about what's happening in Deltarune, where especially when you ask around the church about the shelter, there's all these other different reactions. And here is something else. Where is Father Alvin? Father Alvin disappeared, possibly. And what's crazy about it is that if you go through the wrecked church and you go to the door that presumably might link to either the back room or even to maybe the living quarters within the church, Chris can turn the knob but refuses to open the door. And where did the knight go? Is the knight in that room? Did the knight kidnap Father Alvin? Is Father Alvin in on all of this? We don't know. But I have the feeling that we might end up in Chapter 5 learning that Father Alvin has mysteriously vanished. I would not be surprised if that's the way that it goes. Yeah, Deltarune is really freaking me out with these parallels. Yes, all the parallels, all the crazy stuff that Toby Fox is doing. Toby Fox definitely was like, hey, you guys remember how Undertale was really cutesy and everything, and you guys enjoyed it so much? Unless you did the genocide route, then it gets kind of creepy and hectic when you then fight against Sans. What if I gave you a game that seemed way easier, and then you come to realize just how crazy it is? Wink, wink. Oh boy, Deltarune. Conquest says, I saw someone else point out another fanfic. When the author mentioned about what the player thinks, the reader commented how most Undertale and Deltarune stories ignore the player entirely. Yeah, because it's another... And that makes sense, honestly, because the player's soul is a weird element to it all that's kind of hard to account for. Because everyone plays differently. Everyone engages with the story differently. And I think Toby learned this by making and releasing Undertale, especially with how people interacted with Undertale. And as he said, he wishes to deliver to us a story that will make us feel a certain way. And he's not sure if he'll be able to pull it off because of what we're so used to when it comes to what we had with Undertale. And so in a way, to get us to go on this new adventure, Toby can't just let us have as much freedom as we once did, but rather drag us through a story that even where we are able to exercise our freedom to have the story do different things along the way. We can definitely change certain outcomes depending on the route that we choose. And there's things that we can learn about these characters by the choices that we make. That's absolutely a part of Deltarune. Excuse me. Let me make sure that I actually have my thought there. Even though we have freedom, we are dragged along for this story, whatever it is that Toby wants us to experience. And instead, he's relying on how each and every single one of us will have a different relationship now with these characters, because we are playing through 7 chapters of making friends, as opposed to Undertale, which is just all in one go. He wants to give us something different. So when we begin to think about, okay, so how would you then incorporate the player into this kind of a story? If you are a fanfic writer who's trying to be respectful to the idea of the player and what the player might want, the honest truth is that you're not writing the player, you're writing yourself. and what you would do, not necessarily what someone else would do playing through Deltarune. And so if you understand that, it makes even more sense why you might not add the player as an element within your Deltarune fanfic, because that's just another character to consider, and that character is essentially you. And unless you want to insert yourself into the story, most authors aren't going to go that route. So, with all that being said, guys, it's after 10 o'clock here. I gotta get moving on other things. I got some projects I need to work on. I'm going to try to salvage what I can of the day that took a lot of time away from me and a lot of wind out of my sails. And you can probably hear it now. My voice is beginning to go a little bit. It's been a busy, crazy day. Glad I didn't have to do a rant earlier. Oh, look at that. They're on the screen. Love Master. More love. Yes. Love is so very much a part of this game. And I'm looking forward to talking more about Deltarune in upcoming videos here real soon. Jep M. Judah says, by the way, kind of unrelated to Deltarune, but have you seen Hunter the Parenting? It's another really good indie YouTube show. I just love to see your thoughts on it. Well, thank you for the recommendation, Jep M. Judah. Let me make sure I actually pull that up. Hunter the Parenting. Okay, I've got it pulled up to check it out when I have the opportunity, and looking forward to seeing how that goes. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me on this live stream. Thank you for all of your comments, your insights, your theories, and everything. It was great, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again soon. And so, until the next video, y'all, you take care. Have a great morning, day, night, wherever you are at, and tschüss.